and welcome to a virtual Walk to Remember, a historical walking tour of downtown Galt. My name is Dan Schmalz and I'll be your guide today on this tour of roughly 31 stops over a historic downtown core. Today we're going to have a co-production between the ID Exchange and the City of Cambridge Archives. So let's get started. Okay guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the history of Galt. In 1784, the British Crown granted to the Six Nations Confederacy in perpetuity all the land along the Grand River, 6 miles deep on each side of the river, from its source to Lake Erie. The Six Nations, led by Joseph Brant, had the land surveyed in 1791 and divided it into their own reserve lands and large tracts, which they intended to sell to land developers. The parcel of land along the Grand River, known as Block 1, was purchased by Philip Stedman from the Six Nations on February the 5th, 1798. This property, containing 94,305 acres, later became known as the Township of Dumfries. The entire Block 1 was ultimately purchased on July the 3rd, 1816 by William Dickson Sr. for a total of £24,000. William Dickson Sr. was born in Scotland and was a resident of Niagara-on-the-Lake. He set off to tour his newly purchased land, accompanied by Absalom Shade, a carpenter from Buffalo, New York, and a person who would become a leading businessman in the community. In 1816, they chose where Mill Creek flows into the Grand River as a site for Shade's mill. To reinforce the new settlement's distinct Scottish heritage, in 1825, it was renamed Galt in honor of Scottish novelist and Canada Company Commissioner John Galt, a friend of William Dickson and a person who would go on to play a large role in the development of Guelph, Ontario in 1827. The settlement grew slowly and began to prosper with the development of textile mills, foundries, and factories. The opening of the railway in 1855 contributed to this prosperity of the community, and in 1857 Galt was incorporated as a town with a population of nearly 3,000. The face of the main streets also changed over time as stone buildings were erected to replace the original wooden ones often lost to fire, resulting in Galt being known as the Granite City. On January the 1st, 1973, the city of Galt ceased to exist as a separate political entity, and as it was amalgamated along with Preston and Hespeler to create the city of Cambridge. Okay guys, the first stop on our tour is going to be the market building. The original location of the market remains uncertain, but the location is not as much a mystery as the exact date of the first market. Evidence suggests that the market has been at the present location since at least the 1830s, and it is likely to have been there from the very beginning of the market. Galt founder William Dickson originally proposed a marketplace to be built in the vicinity of Queen Square in 1836. He wanted the west bank of the river to serve as the town center, coincidentally or not, located beside his new King's Arms Hotel. The plan to make the area around Queen Square the town center was met with resistance and did not hold primarily because it did not reflect the economic reality of the time. The townspeople saw the East Bank as the place where they did business. This is where the general store was, where the taverns and mills were located, and that was where the market must have been located. For them, this was the town center, and they saw no need to change. It has been custom in North America and many parts of Europe to locate the market close to the seat of government. In Galt, after 1838, that would have been near the Township Hall, was located at the present site of Cambridge City Hall. In 1856, the building that formerly housed the town's public school was converted into a vegetable and poultry building. The building was located directly east of the Township Hall. In 1858, the Town Hall was completed and designated the Town Hall and Marketplace. The bottom floor of the new building was set aside to house the village's butchers and villager meat market. In 1880, it became clear that the old Ward School was no longer adequate to house the vegetable and poultry market. The present-day property at Dickson Street and Ainslie Street was purchased by the town from the Methodist Church congregation, which had formerly worshipped at the site. The new building was erected in 1887, the second floor added in 1896. Okay, the next stop is the Dando block. The Dando block, named for former owner George Dando Sr., is one of a number of Romanesque revival brick buildings which were constructed in the Galt core during the decade of growth between 1885 and 1895. The late Victorian building boom changed the face of the community from a rustic frontier settlement to a sophisticated small town. Okay, this location is also famous for being the site of probably the most famous photo in Cambridge's history. In 1974, the young city of Cambridge experienced a disastrous flood. Police officer Jack Shuttleworth was photographed standing in knee-deep water at this intersection. You will find this photo in many local restaurants and bars throughout the downtown core. Show it to anyone who experienced the flood and they'll give you their memories of one of the most significant events in the history of Cambridge. Okay, Mannion's, circa 1868, 22 to 24 Ainslie Street North. For more than a century, this three-story stone building was home to the same type of business. Originally named T. Littles & Sons, the company built and sold furniture on this site, and furniture sales continued later as Mannion's until 2007. During the early days of furniture manufacturing, the cabinet makers also built coffins for the community. Right now, actually, it houses a house store and a yoga studio. Bank of Nova Scotia, Main and Ainslie Streets. A Main Street branch of the Bank of Nova Scotia was opened in 1956, across the street from the present location. The new modern concrete steel glass building was designed and constructed at a cost of $500,000 and opened July 27, 1972. This was originally the site of an impressive building that was constructed in 1898 as the headquarters for the Gore Mutual Fire Insurance Company, which was demolished in 1971. The original cupola from the top of the historic Gore Building now is located at the top of Main Street in Centennial Park, just up here. Okay, so the corner building here behind me, the Theron Buchanan block, circa 1894, 63 to 69 Main Street. Designed and built in 1894 for Theron Buchanan, this block was first home to Buchanan's dry good business. Buchanan has served for several years on the Galt Town Council and other community boards. The second Osborne block, circa 1895, 55 to 61 Main Street. Just a year after the Buchanan block was built, this building was constructed and filled the gap between Buchanan's and Osborne's first building on Main Street. Constructed in the high Victorian Italianate style, only the front facade with its oriel windows and arcade balcony is built of granite. The rest of the building is actually made of yellow brick. The first Osborne block, 51 to 53 Main Street. In 1865, William Osborne had the grey granite building constructed after a series of fires that swept through the downtown, destroying many of the earlier wooden buildings. Osborne is credited with establishing the first oatmeal mill in Galt and was also a partner with his half-brother David Spears in a grocery and liquor business known as Osborne, Spears & Co. Okay, behind me is the James Young Building, 43 to 49 Main Street. Constructed in the Italianate style, this three-story yellow brick building was built for newspaper publisher and politician, the Honorable James Young. Born in 1835 in Galt, Young was a significant character of the history of Galt, serving in various levels of government and authoring notable essays in an important book on the early history of the community. The book, reminisces of the early history of Galt and Dumfries, is available through Google Books or can be viewed at the archives. The Wilkins block, circa 1863, 30 to 38 Main Street. Located halfway down the block on the even-numbered side of the street is a grey granite building designed by James Dalgleish and built by Daniel Allen for William Wilkins' men's clothing business. Edward Wilkins joined his father in the business and eventually took over management of the company. He was active in the community as a councillor, deputy reeve, and school board member. The Granite block, circa 1851, 13 to 39 Main Street. This composite stone building, more than any others, led to Galt being considered the Granite City. Built by the well-respected stonemason Robert Webster and his brother William to replace an earlier block destroyed by fire, this building was constructed for 6 independent merchants. The main corner at number 13 was home to the Imperial Bank in 1886 until it merged with the Canadian Bank of Commerce in 1961, moving all of its business across the street. All right, so the Main Street Heritage District. Designated under the Ontario Heritage Act in 1987, the odd-numbered buildings on this block of Main Street remain relatively intact through the modernization movement of the 1960s and contain a wide variety of styles. Each set of buildings are described as blocks, 13 to 69, and can be best distinguished by viewing the top profiles of the structures. The Miller and Hugh Cant buildings, circa 1872, 1820 to 22 Main Street. These two granite buildings were constructed in the Italianate style, feature round arch windows on the second floor with decorative hood molds. Hugh Cant Jr. was involved with various business ventures in the area with his brothers from 1862 to 1895. He is also credited with authoring a book on the history of Galt published in 1915. So above here, the patch was at one point the White Rose Cafe. The White Rose Cafe was managed by a gentleman by the name of Li Bing. Li Bing was believed to have been one of 6 Chinese men who survived the sinking of the Titanic in 1912. The Merchants Bank of Canada, 8 Main Street. Built to replace the Woods and Taylor dry goods store, the Merchants Bank building was designed by Hoggle and Davis of Montreal. It became the Bank of Montreal in around 1922 and was later home to a real estate broker. It is now home to a dental office. The Commercial Building. This is the site of Absalom Shade's General Store, or Red Store, constructed in 1850. 5 years later, a grand ball was held on the second floor to celebrate the arrival of the Great Western Railway in Galt. The building was home to the Gore Bank, which was originally started in Hamilton in 1835. The bank opened an agency in Galt in about 1840, with Absalom Shade serving as one of the bank's earliest agents. The Bank of Commerce ultimately took over the Gore Bank in 1867. Known as the Commercial Building, it is important for the quality of its stonework and design. All right, everybody, welcome to the old post office. Absalom Shade was appointed the first postmaster of Galt in 1825, and it is probable that initially he operated the post office out of his general store at the intersection of Main and Water Streets. A number of sources indicate that from 1833 until 1885, a frame structure situated on Water Street may have been the first post office in Galt. Around 1885, a new Romanesque Revival post office building was erected on what is believed to be the original site. Thomas Fuller, the chief Dominion architect from 1881 to 1897, and who is also credited with designing the first of the Parliament buildings in Ottawa, designed this building. The first floor of this site served as the post office, and the customs office was located on the second floor until 1936, at which time the post office moved to a new location at Dickson and Water Streets. The customs office took over the ground floor and remained there until 1963. The city purchased the building and housed its transportation division there. It later served as a number of restaurants some of you will be familiar with, including the Time Club and Fiddler's Green. The building was repurchased by the city of Cambridge and reopened as a new branch of Idea Exchange in 2018. So this building, 14 to 32 Water Street South, constructed in 1887, was known as the Imperial Block. This Romanesque Revival building was built over Absalom Shade's garden. The Imperial Block was once Galt's answer to one-stop shopping. It housed the commercial bank, a grocery store, tailor shop, dressmaker, and musical instrument store, to name a few. All right, everybody, welcome to the pedestrian bridge. Opened in May of 2018, the new pedestrian bridge was built at the location of the old Galt, Preston, and Hespeler rail bridge that was originally built in 1912. It was at one point known as the Holy Bridge due to the different gaps in the sections of the bridge. This bridge was used to service the west side industrial area of Galt, including the old Southworks location at 64 Grand Ave South. Today, this bridge is used for pedestrian traffic back and forth across the Grand River. It was named Craig's Crossing in honor of former Cambridge Mayor Doug Craig. Bonus stop on our tour today is 96 Grand Avenue South. At one point, this building behind me was home to Sheldon's Engineering. Today, it's home to the City of Cambridge's Economic Development Department, also known as Invest Cambridge, as well as a campus of Conestoga College. McDougall Cottage, 89 Grand Avenue South. Built around 1858, McDougall Cottage was home for more than 2 centuries to 2 families of hard-working Scots, the McDougalls and the Bairds. The home is designated and is currently operated today by the Region of Waterloo as a museum. The Gaslight District. So this location was originally home to the Dumfries Foundry, which was founded in 1844 by James Andrews and James Crombie. The Goldie and McCullough Company came into being in 1859 when John Goldie and Hugh McCullough purchased the Dumfries Foundry from James Crombie. This plant became known as the Southworks after 1905 when a large plant was built in the north end of Galt on Coronation Boulevard to meet the increasing demand for boilers and plate works. In 1923, the Goldie McCullough Company merged with Babcock and Wilcox Co. of the United States to form Babcock and Wilcox and Goldie McCullough Co. So the location at Coronation Boulevard was known as the Northworks, whereas this was the Southworks. During the 1990s, this location became later known for the famous Southworks Outlet Mall. Beginning in 2017, redevelopment of the site was planned for the new Gaslight District, a residential, commercial, and entertainment. Some development has begun with an event-based Tapestry Hall opened along with a new craft brewery, Foundry Brewing. Welcome to Queen Square. In the mid-1830s, Galt's founder, William Dickson Sr., originally developed Queen Square with the intention of it being the town center and home to the town's market. Today, it is home to many of Galt's landmarks. Queen Square is home to 2 magnificent churches. The first of which is behind me, Knox's Presbyterian Church, which was erected in 1869 to 1870. The original Knox's was actually located where the current Farmers Market building stands today. Another of historic downtown Galt's churches is Central Presbyterian Church, located behind me here. It was erected in roughly 1880, and currently, as you can see, there's a little bit of restoration work going on in one of the stained glass windows. All right, guys, close to Queen Square is home to another of Galt's historic churches, Trinity Anglican Church. This church was built and consecrated in 1844. The Honorable William Dickson donated the land on the right bank of the Grand River. Together, along with Absalon Shade, they bore a large portion of the cost of clearing the land and building the church. Eventually, the rectory was built in 1873, and Trinity Anglican Church is known as the oldest stone church in Waterloo region. Okay, the Queen Square Cannon. The Queen Square Cannon was presented to the town of Galt in 1863 as a gift in the aftermath of the Crimean War, fought by Great Britain and the Russian Empire. On Victoria Day, May 24, 1866, the cannon was to be part of a display celebrating Queen Victoria's 47th birthday. After 3 rounds were fired without incident, tragedy struck when the 4th exploded prematurely. 2 men were killed and a few others were injured. After an investigation, it was determined that after the 3rd shot, the gun had not been adequately cleaned out. Burning embers remained in the cannon and had ignited the powder charge too soon, causing the explosion. The cannon was avoided by the townspeople for some time afterwards and experienced some neglect, naturally after such a tragedy had occurred. The Cenotaph. Galt's war memorial behind me here was unveiled in Queen Square on November the 10th, 1930. Inscribed are the names of Galt's war dead. This includes 239 First World War soldiers and 137 Second World soldiers, as well as those who died in the Korean War. A separate monument across the park here honors those who have died serving Canada since 1954. All right, guys, so a later addition to Queen Square was the Centennial Fountain. It was added in recognition of Canada's 100th birthday in 1967. It's recently been restored and reopened to the public. All right, guys, next stop is the Main Street Bridge, just downriver there. So the first bridge built across the Grand at that site was constructed in about 1819. Flooding along the Grand River has been a perennial problem for Galt, and the Main Street Bridge, along many others, has been damaged or destroyed many times. The current bridge underwent a major reconstruction in 1931 with additional restoration work done in 2009. Bank of Toronto, 2 to 4 Water Street North. The Bank of Toronto building is unique in Cambridge. Built between 1912 and 1913 in the Beaux Art style, the face of the building is finished in white glaze tile, not unlike that used for fine pottery. All right, behind me is Scott's Block, 10 to 16 Water Street North. This building is an excellent example of Romanesque revival style of architecture. Built in 1890 for livestock broker John Scott, it later housed the Toronto Millinery House and a dry goods store, in addition to the Independent Order of Oddfellows Lodge. All right, next stop we have the Carnegie Library. The Galt Subscription and Circulating Library was formed in 1836. Before merging with the Mechanics Institute in 1853, the library was actually located in people's homes. American philanthropist Andrew Carnegie donated $23,000 towards the construction of this building. It was designed by local architect Frederick Mellish. The building was deliberately set at the foot of the street near where other civic buildings were situated. 34 Water Street served the Galt community for more than 60 years at the library before being replaced by the Central Library and Gallery located at Queen Square in 1967. Since this time, it's been used as space for various retail and small businesses. All right, so now we're at the other Galt Post Office. And so the Galt Post Office moved from its 12.5 Water Street location to this location in 1936. This building was constructed by G.H. Thomas & Son and continues to be used as a postal station today. Okay guys, the next stop we got here is Wesley United Church right behind me here on Ainslie Street North. Originally the Ainslie Street Methodist Church, it was renamed Wesley United when it became part of the United Church of Canada in the 1920s. The building is constructed of grey granite and broken coarse limestone. Stone buttresses support the tower and nave, and the unique wagon wheel stained glass window holds a heritage designation. A gallery was added in 1885 to seat an additional 450 people. Okay, so behind me you're going to see Cambridge City Hall. Construction of the new City Hall for the City of Cambridge was completed in the spring of 2008. The building was the first municipal city hall in Canada to earn a gold LEED designation. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design and is a nationally recognized program for rating buildings that make an effort to reduce their impact on the environment. Significant feature that contributes to the internal environment of the building is the 110 square meter green wall located in the atrium that includes over 3,000 plants of 30 different species. The building houses the civic employees and administrative services of the city, as well as spaces and squares designed for community events. All right, guys, behind me you'll see the old Galt Fire Hall, built in 1898. It was designed by Galt architect Frederick Mellish. The building actually has undergone a number of renovations over the years, including restoring the old doors that would open out into the street. They used to have like horses bringing the fire hoses around and all that. The building is now actually open as the Cambridge Fire Hall, actually the Fire Hall Museum and Education Center. All right, guys, behind me now we are at the David Durward Center, built in 1921. It was designed by Brantford architect P.C. Bodley. This traditional three-story sandstone building was influenced by the Art Deco style. Built for the local Hydro Commission, it holds the distinction of being Galt's first all-steel office structure. The Electric Commission maintained offices in the building until the mid-1980s, and it's now a senior center named in honor of a long-standing member of the Hydro Commission and former city councilor. All right, so now we're at the former First United Church, which was recently purchased by River City Church to be used as a church in community hub here at 15 Wellington Street. So July 8th, coincidentally, the day of the tour, 1824 was the date that is used by First United Church to mark its anniversaries. But the first members of the congregation had met years prior to that time. The date marks the church's first communion service. In its first 4 years, the congregation held services in mills and taverns until 1828, when Absalom Shade built and financed the original meeting house on this site for church services. In 1834, Galt was decimated by a cholera epidemic. Within a week, the plague had ravaged throughout the settlement, wiping out an estimated 20% of the town's population of only 200 people. This meeting house then became the village's morgue during the epidemic, and the wooden planks purchased to build the church pews were used instead to make caskets. Sadly, First United closed in October of 2017 after close to 200 years, with the congregation merging with St. John's on the Hill United Church to form Cedar Hill United Church. All right, behind me, guys, is our final stop of the day, Historic City Hall. Considered to be the flagship heritage building in Cambridge, this granite Italian public building was designed by H.B. Sinclair and R. Burroughs. The clock tower was added in 1897 in celebration of Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. The original cost of the building was £4,650 sterling. The building was the center of local government until the early 1980s, at which the time the administration moved into a leased space in Cambridge Place on Water Street. The original town hall is actually on Cambridge Street over this way. It was actually originally on this location, and they moved it on logs. It's, I believe it's 56 to 58 Cambridge Street, and still stands today. Today, with Historic City Hall, the ground level houses the City of Cambridge archives, the vault, and the actual collection. And the second floor houses the offices, as well as the Cambridge Hall of Fame and a number of meeting facilities. The third floor is the home of the City of Cambridge Council Chambers, where we've had council meetings dating back all the way into the 1800s. The building has undergone major restoration work starting in 2008, which was completed in 2010, which involved the adding of an accessible elevator. Also, in the renovations of that time, they included a glass link linking historic City Hall with the new City Hall right here. So that's it's my place of work. It's a great place to work, and that is the last stop on our tour. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit today about historic downtown Galt. It's a little different than normal doing it virtually, but I wanted to get a chance to be able to still show you guys some stuff, like actual images and that around town. So hopefully we can do this again sometime, and hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be glad to take any questions now. So thanks a lot for coming.